Episode 11 of Never Enough Gaming. Today I got Rockin' Mr. Magic with me. We're going to talk about Super Mario Bros. You know, there's not much that we can say that hasn't already been said about this game, but, still want to talk about it. To this day, this is probably, other than, this Mario game and Super Mario Sunshine are the only Mario games I ever completed.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice. Well, Justin, first I want to thank you for having me on the show. I've been excited to talk to you, particularly about some of these classic games as they hold very special place in my heart because it resonates with me, takes me back to my childhood and a lot of the early days of gaming when it was, as the old folks say. Or, as Wu-Tang Clan said, can it be that it was all so simple then? And it really was. It was a simpler game, a simpler time, but still, Super Mario Brothers is iconic. It stands amongst the giants of games.
And it still holds up. Like, even someone that doesn't even like games, you hand them the controller to play this on anything, and they could probably get into it a little bit. It's
absolutely,
yeah,
and also not just get into it, but be challenged. It's about timing, maintaining composure when you go through those tougher levels, and not everybody has that. People can watch and say, "Oh, it looks easy, it looks simple." But until you do it, you really don't know how easy or how simple it truly is.
Yeah, and you can also kind of make your own difficulty with it. Like, do I want to take it slow, or do I want to try to really run through this level and see how, awesome I can feel just blazing through it? And it feels awesome when you can do something like that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. If, you're a confident gamer, you can kind of try to, go for, the speed runs, or you can try to, find every hidden block for, either coins or extra lives, or, go through every pipe and see if you can do that before time runs out. Like, you can really challenge yourself to make the game experience as easy or as intense as you desire it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's a really and for no, it's okay. But for such an older game, like that was a way to impact the level of gameplay when you didn't have the options to, you didn't have the easy mode, hard mode, or super hard mode. Like, it was simply challenging yourself to do more within the game to extend the difficulty, to challenge yourself,
right?
Instead of having the game, do it for you, for lack of a better term.
And even if you beat it once, there's a second difficulty that it starts you on, where it switches up enemy placement a little bit, and
yes,
there's a couple more things it does. I can't remember exactly, so that's pretty neat. Little replay value there.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was one of those ways where you separated, the men from the boys, in that way. It was like, because I recall, back in the day, we would talk about, our gaming conquests, and it was, I beat such and such game, like for Mario specifically. It would be, the guys that could really play were the guys who would say, brag, I beat Super Mario Brothers, and I didn't use a single super mushroom or whatever, or they didn't use fire flowers at all, or they didn't use a single star. Like, they would brag about.
And that would change the whole way you play the game too.
Yeah, because your strategy is completely different if you're not going, if you're not getting, the super mushroom, if you're not getting the big mushroom, if you're not doing fire flowers. Like, Because I know for me, like those, from the water levels, if I'm Fire Mario, I'm just swimming and shooting.
Yeah, me too.
And just, blasting my way, through. But if I'm not grabbing fire flowers, now I've got to be strategic on how I'm swimming. I have to really look out for
the bloopers will follow you.
The pattern movements of the bloopers. The ones with the trailing. Like it's a whole different thing as I'm navigating through the cheeps, through the bloopers. It completely changes how I'm going about strategy wise, and then I'm really paying attention to the clock if I'm trying to another wrinkle of challenge to it as well.
Yeah. And that's also what I like about, you ever played the Super Mario Deluxe port on the Game Boy?
That's the one that comes with the lost levels included?
I think so. And each level has like 5 red coins you have to collect now, and there's like little challenge runs.
Yes, I did. My son had that for his Game Boy Advance SP.
Yeah.
So I played it on there. Really enjoyable, and gave a good fresh feel to a classic game without changing the core experience.
Yeah, it just adds on to it. And you even get those levels where you have to race the boo to the end of the level, and that's pretty cool too.
Yes, absolutely. Very fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember first time I played this game, it's one of the earliest video game memories I have. I mean, I'm 27, so when I was getting my first system, the NES was pretty much going out the door. And
oh yeah, I mean, by the time you were born, the NES, the
PlayStation was coming.
Yeah, we were about to get the N64 by the time you were born.
Yeah, and I remember going to some used game store with my parents, and they got me an NES, and they had a bunch of games, just trying to get rid of them. So I got this with the Duck Hunt combination. Little Nemo, the Dream Master, some football game, and a Barbie game.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got a bunch of random little games. But, yeah, that's one of my earliest memories is playing this and Duck Hunt. And I love Duck Hunt, too. I haven't played that in forever.
Well, they're so synonymous, because so many people, if their family, like I know when my parents bought the NES, they bought the bundle that came with the Mario Duck Hunt, cartridge. So it's hard to separate for a lot of people, especially for my generation. 'Cause I'm in my, I'm 42. So a lot of my generation, the NES was their first or second console. Either their first console was the Atari 2600 or, the NES. And even if it wasn't their first console, it was generally bought with the bundle that came with the Mario Duck Hunt cartridge. So, like, those two they're married so much in the memories of so many, gamers from, my generation as far as, late Gen X, early millennials.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody had it. I would go to some, family member's house, and they would have it. So, yeah.
It was rare to to see a cartridge of just Duck Hunt or just Super Mario Brothers. Like you really didn't see it separated, and if you did, then you knew that person was they were a serious gamer. They'd been playing for a while.
Mm-hmm. I kind of I'm not really interested in getting arcade cabinets in my house, but one I do want is the Versus Super Mario Bros., which is the arcade port of it. I would love that. Oh, that would be so cool to have. And
cabinets are. I grew up with a cabinet in my home. My mom had a Pac-Man cabinet that she bought at an auction.
Yeah.
So I'm very partial to growing up with to having a cabinet in the home. I think it's a cool experience, and it's just it's such a, again for me, very nostalgic form of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't. As much as I love consoles, and I'm pro console over everything, there's just a unique experience with arcades that you just can't duplicate that feel any other way except for just standing there at the cabinet, the joysticks, the buttons, how you play is so different compared to holding a console controller in your hand compared to moving and maneuvering with the joystick, where you have, more omnidirectional options, even though the actual directions are still left, right, up, down.
Right.
You can move that joystick in that way, so you can do those, angled moves that technically aren't supposed to exist, but really do. It's such a great wrinkle in the gameplay, especially for, the Mario Brothers, and then obviously into Super.
Yeah. I want a Mario Brothers cabinet too. I love the original Mario Brothers arcade game. Do you like it?
I do enjoy it. I do, and that was one thing about, and then we're not talking directly about it, but it's briefly mentioned. That's one thing about 3 that I loved, was when you went through the pipes in worlds. You would have that Mario Brothers arcade experience.
Yeah.
Within Super Mario Brothers 3, that was just a fantastic aspect to that game. Which is, I know we're supposed to talk about that game in another episode, so I'm going to save my praise and adulation for that game. But I think that's
talk about that amazing game.
It really is. But the Mario Brothers edition of that, just a little bit, where you're fighting each other for the opportunity to control the board, is just super cool.
Oh yeah, and it just shows, like, even this tiny little game, you can't really pull a remake of it because it's so tiny. It wouldn't really make any sense. So in order to get the authentic version, you kind of still have to play a port version of the original, whether it's like the NES port on the Switch subscription, or so it just really, really holds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's just amazing. I never beat 2 or 3, but I played them a lot, so I'm excited to actually get into those and play them.
I would definitely encourage you to play through 3 and beat it. 2, that's up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I like 2. It's just I was disappointed at the end. It just, but I mean, as I'm older now, I enjoy it more than I did as a kid.
Right, it's a little more complex than
It was just it was so wildly different. It didn't feel like a Mario game.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about the history of it, it really wasn't a Mario game.
Yeah.
It technically was a different game that they skinned as a Mario game. So there's just so much. It's just so different.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. It's not a bad game. And I tell people who would claim Mario 2 is a bad game, I would tell them they don't understand gaming, and really don't have a clue as far as what makes a good game versus a bad game. So it's a fun game.
Yeah, it's not a bad game at all.
It's not a bad game at all. It's just it didn't feel like a Mario game because originally it was not. And then 3 kind of showed us what 2 probably should have been.
Right.
Or and then it was like, well, I mean, 2 had its fun parts and stuff, but like this is what we're talking about.
Right, yeah.
But Mario 1, Super Mario Brothers, I should say. I've always referred to Mario as Mario 1.
Yeah.
It to me is still some of just the more challenging aspects, because as fun as enjoyable in parts as 2 is, and as a masterpiece that is 3. Super Mario Brothers is such a challenging point because you don't have the bailouts of all the power-ups that you have in 3 particularly. There are so many fun and great power-ups in 3, but they kind of act as a crutch in so many ways.
Definitely. Especially since you can have a spare one.
Yeah, I mean, having a cache of power-ups where, you've got super mushrooms, you've got fire flowers, you've got stars, you've got, The raccoon, you have the
Yeah,
raccoon leaf, you've got the tanuki suit, you've got the hammer suit, you've got the frog suit.
Man, there's so much in that.
Yeah, like you had the 3 warp whistles, you had the Judgment's Cloud, you've got the P-Wing, you've got the music box. I think I'm forgetting one. No, I said Judgment's Cloud, which was I was always frustrated when I got the Judgment Cloud. I'm like, I don't want this thing. This is dumb. But there was just so many power ups where in one you just had fire flowers, super mushrooms and stars, and then that was it. And you got them through the level, or you didn't get them.
Right.
It was such a tougher challenge to navigate through all 8 of those levels that, even though they repeated themselves in some aspects, was still tough to go through. Going up the vines into, I don't know what your generation calls it, but we always called it heaven, going up the vine, going up to heaven. I guess it was more Jack and the Beanstalk wise, but since it was in the clouds, we always called it heaven. Maybe because
It works for it.
yeah, and possibly because most of my friends, I'm a Christian who grew up in a Christian home and going to a Pentecostal church. So all my friends who played it were also Christians. So we're running through the clouds. We were clearly in heaven. So that just made sense.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've never thought if that was the general colloquialism or not. I just assumed that it was because all my friends referred it to as that. But even that was harder than it was in the subsequent games.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I picked this up the other day, and I was like, all right, I'm going to play through this for the show. And I just played through it in one sitting, through every level, and it was just great. Like, it was a good time. I'm playing a bunch of complicated stuff for the show. Like, I was playing Metal Gear Solid and Majora's Mask, and...
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I'm loving Majora's Mask. The only other Zelda game I beat was Wind Waker. So, I never even played Ocarina, so I'm playing Majora first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm kind of happy I'm playing through it first. It's kind of cool. But, yeah, playing through this was just such a nice, simple breather. And, yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is... Sometimes I will go back and I'll pick up my Switch, and I'll automatically head to Nintendo Online, and I'll play a Mario title simply as the palate cleanser.
Right.
Like
yeah.
at a fancy restaurant, they bring out the lemon sorbet just to cleanse your palate from all the rich food that you've had, and a lot of these current generation games feel like that, where it's like, I just need something basic, simple, and enjoyable to cleanse my palate for the next, thing that I want to enjoy. And Super Mario Brothers is a fantastic choice just for that.
It's
It's
exactly what it is, a nice palate cleanser. I mean, playing the nice, shiny new Dead Space remake on PS5, and then go to Mario, it's like, I like them just as much as the new games, but in a different way. Like, I'm glad I'm into both,
Well, that's refreshing for someone my age to hear, because so much of the pervasive feeling, accurate or inaccurate, is that your generation looks down upon the 8-bit years, the 16-bit years, because you all pretty much grew up in the 64-bit and up, and even if you were you're the same age as you're actually in between ages between of my older children, and they essentially, even though they were born for the 64-bit, their gaming experience that they can really truly remember, or as far as graphics and such level, were PS or Dreamcast, PS2. They saw me play technology below that, but what they were primarily experiencing and seeing, was that PlayStation 2 and up,
Right.
level of gaming. So having someone of your age that's really has an appreciation for the 8-bit time frame is just it's really cool because it's not the norm of your generation
Yeah.
to appreciate those classics that way.
I mean, if I'd play these games and then our kids will be like, hell are you playing that for? Like, because it's fun. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun. Like that's the whole thing. Like, is the game fun? Like, there's so many, NES games that were terrible.
Right.
And I get no one should play that because the game is not good. It's not fun. But if the game is fun, like I don't care about the quality per se or the graphics engine and such like that. If the game is fun, which is like I think there's and I could be wrong, but I think there is a growing sentiment among the gaming community that's kind of tired of publishers focusing so much on graphics and such and not the quality of the game. And I think we might see a trend of more independent developers making lower quality games, but in terms of graphics and such, but higher quality as far as gameplay and enjoyment. And that will be a little less expensive, and just be just super enjoyable to play, and just a better experience over, we're putting millions and millions of dollars into this great looking game, but it's maybe not be the greatest experience.
Right. But you still have the other side of the coin where, like, I was looking at the new Silent Hill 2 trailer, the remake, and a lot of the comments are like, oh, it doesn't even look that great. Like, yes, it does. First of all, like, especially compared to the original, like, why are you guys still complaining about this? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of, to me, that's kind of goofy to complain about. Like, there's the graphics today, like, watching the graphical evolution just through my timeline and my lifespan. Like, I in 1996, I remember marveling over the N64 graphics as far as, especially like sports games and anything that was supposed to simulate real life. I marveled at how lifelike it was, especially like the N64 when in 1999 when they dropped the commercial for Madden 2000. And it was like, meet Cyberberry, and we see, Barry Sanders doing the moves on the field, and then they, transition into the cyber version of Barry Sanders doing the moves, and you see how smooth and slick it is. Like, that was mind blowing.
Yeah.
In '99, it was like, wow, like this can't get any better. And then Madden now is like. It's like, did you just mocap games and just port them? Like, because that's what it looks like. It's really phenomenal where it's come.
Definitely, yeah. Like, I think one of the best looking games I've played were actually like the two last games I played, like Demon Souls remake on PS5 and Shadow of the Colossus remake. Oh, damn.
Okay.
That was so amazing looking. It's crazy. And, I mean, even Shadow of the Colossus on PS2 looked amazing. But,
yeah, in a beautiful game, when you... I'm not the biggest person on remakes. I understand the value to them. And if they're iconic enough, I'm for it. I just don't like the massive trend within all creative stuff, and I kind of blast about this on my podcast. I have a segment I call the Reboot Police because there's so much in Hollywood and gaming and such. There's so much rebooting going on, and not as much original content being made. But certain reboots, I get it, and like when the game is gorgeous. Let's say, for example, you mentioned Silent Hill. Another survival horror would be, Resident Evil. When when Resident Evil the remake came out on GameCube, and I saw the graphical difference, I was blown away with how gorgeous.
Even today,
the
that game looks amazing.
Yes, and today that game looks it looks phenomenal. And when I heard they were going to release 2 on the GameCube, I didn't know it was going to be a port. So I was excited. Then I saw it was just a port. And I'm like, dude, like you did this amazing job redoing the first game, and then the second one you're just going to port it over. Like, come on, bro. Like, really? But it's a phenomenal game. And there are certain games to me they're just so gorgeous that, despite their age, they look amazing. Shenmue is another one of those games.
I never played that, but it's coming up on the schedule here in about a month, so I will be playing.
Has anybody signed up for it? Because I could talk Shenmue forever. That's one of my favorite games.
I have a max of 2 guests per podcast. I only got 1, so yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you the information on the dates and stuff. So
awesome, yeah, because I love Shenmue.
Yeah, I never played it, so I'm excited.
Oh man, yeah. Before I digress, but like I'm all for remakes, and honestly, the train of thought I was trying to get to was I'm kind of surprised we have not gotten a similar style for Super Mario Brothers,
right?
Because remakes are so prevalent right now. But Nintendo really has been doing a fantastic job in leaving classics alone. They're just like, hey, you know what? We don't need to jump on the bandwagon of redoing every classic game that we've ever made. Like, looking at you, Capcom. And I'm not mad at it, but like, I don't want to buy Resident Evil 4 again.
yeah.
Like... I bought Resident Evil 4 as much as I love
times.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I have it. I have it on the Wii, and I think I have the PS4 edition. And now they want to, I'm tired of buying this game again. I'm as much as I love Square and as much as I'm a Final Fantasy freak, I'm tired of buying Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I bought this last one, yes, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, yo, I don't want to buy this game again. And if you want me to buy another version of this game, like, you need to give me some type of bonus credit, something to ease the cost of buying yet another one of these games. It's just like it's a lot.
Yeah. I think the way Dead Space remake's doing it, so far, like, they add like side missions, and they make the original game. It was chapter based, and you had the load between chapters. But now you can explore the whole area in one loading, and your protagonist talks now, and it feels like they're making the game they meant to make before, or they really wanted
the first
to make.
time.
Yeah, and I think remakes are good for that, but it's also easy for people to exploit them just for, money.
Absolutely.
So, would you agree that 1-1 and maybe tied with like Green Hill Zone are probably the most famous beginning game levels ever?
Oh man, that's an excellent question.
I'm trying to think of anything that would have a run for its money. Maybe like Bob-omb Battlefield in 64. That's still a Mario game.
Yeah, it's still a Mario game. Like, I'm gonna say I don't think there's anything that's more right now, and that's only because, too much to a lot of the parents of my generation's chagrin, we did not grow out of games like they wanted us to. So there's such a large number of gamers who have such fond memories of those zones, those beginning levels. So until essentially, Gen X, late Gen X, early millennials really start to either stop gaming or start dying off, I think those are going to remain such prevalent options. Also because we've raised our kids to play those games. So even though they may not be as iconic to them as they were to us, they're still iconic because they're going to be sentimental to those generations because of the connection it has to their parents, as well as their own personal experience with playing those games.
Yeah, I mean, they're both even stages in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think they'll live on for a long, long time. And, I'm pretty sure most 3D Mario platformers after, like Wonder or Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros., they all have some sort of resemblance to 1-1 at some point. And usually it's still the first level.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's just such a good template. There was a quote by Miyamoto. He explained that he created World 1-1 to contain everything a player needs to gradually and naturally understand what they're doing, so they can quickly understand how the game works. And once the player understands those mechanics of the game, they can play more freely, and it becomes their game. And I think that's pretty spot on. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And that's what you want for, ideally, any first level is to give you pretty much every aspect of the gameplay possible without overdoing it, without giving you a true like boss, level fight. You want though at first level to encompass a lot of the mechanics that you're going to be utilizing, which I think Nintendo is fantastic at doing. Especially when you're talking about Super Mario Brothers 1, or just Mario games themselves. 3 was fantastic with that, the way they incorporated the use of, introducing the leaf, the raccoon tail leaf, and how much that's utilized within the game. The change in mechanics to running and sprinting, and the fact that you could go backwards in the levels now, like all those things were there in that first level. And Super Mario Brothers having pipe usage to either go for skip forward into the game or not, having the hidden 1-up mushroom within the first 5 seconds of the level. I mean, it's right there. You've got the mushroom and you've got the pipe right there next to each other, two very key elements that make how you play the game tough. And if you try to get both, it's hard. You've got to really know how to maximize your space to get that extra life mushroom and still go down the pipe. Two is very important parts of that level, but it's right there for the player to experience. Just shows just the level, extremely high level of development from the on Nintendo side, and it's been consistent through their first party games.
Definitely. I mean, it's nice that it doesn't just tell you exactly what to do with like text or anything. You just into it. You just figure it out. And the past 3 PlayStation 1 games I played, Metal Gear Solid, Spyro the Dragon, and Spider-Man, all 3 of them at one point are like, press X button to do this. Like, I mean, there's a better way to implement that, and I know those games are more complicated, sort of, but
but there's only so much reaction and mapping through a controller that the human mind can conceptualize and pull off. So while they are more complicated, they're still simplistic to a sense, because there's only so much that we can do. So like that basic level of introduction may not, isn't always needed, as you said, because you can guide through and tell the story, and show how to do those things through a more natural way of figuring it out, instead of having everything. Now, I would say, playing devil's advocate, I think for gamers of a certain age,
and that's what like Spyro and Spider-Man, the games I'm playing,
right? Yeah.
for. So
Yeah,
it makes sense.
exactly.
For
So for games of a certain age that are marketed towards especially a younger demographic, I think that makes sense. Or if even if your game like Spider-Man for say isn't necessarily particularly for a younger demographic, but in the Spider-Man, if you're talking like the easy, the friendly neighborhood level, if that starts off doing the introduction that way, because either you're young, you're new to gaming, you're kind of inexperienced, you need more of that hand-holding experience. Where if you start off, on a harder level, obviously, I don't need that hand-holding on a higher level if I'm just jumping into Spider-Man.
So the music, obviously, some of the most iconic music in gaming, especially like the underground level, like 1, 2. And there's 2 games I've played for the podcast where I hear the music in my sleep. So far, it's this and Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay.
And it's great.
The music is not only is it iconic when it comes to familiarity, but it's good music. It's enjoyable. Mario, a lot of games really didn't have enjoyable to listen to music. You recognized it. You knew it was there. You acknowledged it, but you weren't like, "Oh, this is fun to hear." Really, that really wasn't the case for most video game music. You had your outliers.
And a lot of NES games just have one track too.
Yeah, like Zelda, for example. That's pretty much one track. Now it's a very enjoyable track and it's iconic.
Right.
But it really doesn't vary much. Where you have variance going between levels. You've got music is the pitch and tone is different for the night levels in Mario compared to the day ones. Then you've got the water level music that is just so fun. And it's probably my favorite music of Mario is probably the water level. Personally,
mine too.
Yeah, it's just the song. The music slaps. Like it's dope.
Yeah,
it's really cool. It's really good music. And when you've got really good music in a game, it's hard to not have the impression of that game just be so ingrained and enjoyable, because the nuance, because the music is supposed to be a nuance, supposed to add to the gameplay. When it's such a high quality, it just really makes that experience so much better than it would be. And I've noticed, as a kid, like playing late at night, and don't want to wake up anybody else in the house because I'm playing on the living room TV, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm supposed to be in bed. Playing with the sound off, it's it's not as fun when you don't hear the you go into the pipe and you're going down and you don't hear the dun 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 dun. Like, if you don't hear that, it's not the same.
It's a major part of the experience, and it's a lot of care put into it too. I mean, like I said, some NES games have one track, and then you have amazing games like this and DuckTales, which just have such good soundtracks, and that's skill to do that with the audio capabilities of the NES.
Oh yeah, it's because Super Mario Brothers is such a I consider it one of the people like to do Mount Rushmores. I like to think of I like to do things in fives, even though I don't like odd numbers. I like to see what things in five when I think of pillars, that things are built upon, and the Super Mario Brothers is one of those pillars that gaming, especially gaming. Actually, no, I was going to say especially in the Western world, but Mario is such an international brand. It's a pillar in gaming, period. And so many things about Super Mario Brothers that we appreciate have translated so well throughout the generations of gaming, and through the iterations of levels of technology, those things when it comes to the high value soundtrack, the gameplay, the iconic and recognizable levels, just there's so the gameplay, just the story, the dependability of the engine. There's just all those little factors that mean so much. You can tie back to this one game that really, I don't want to say kickstarted, but more of was a huge catalyst. I would say it was like a detonator. Like you had a bomb waiting to go off, but it needed that first explosion to really make the bomb blow. And Super Mario Bros. Really was that game.
Even like the mainline, like side-scrolling platform Mario games, obviously goes on today with Wonder. It's still, I can't think of a lot of like game series where like no matter what language like you play the game in, you'd still, it doesn't really affect it at all. Except, well, the newer side-scrollers will have some text sometimes. I think I haven't played Wonder or anything, but yeah, I think that's just a great thing. And it's also just great for everybody. Like, you could play this game with like a 10-year-old, an 80-year-old, doesn't matter.
That's a fantastic point. One I really can't say I was thinking about too much, but one great, and that's you saying that is one of the reasons why I rescinded the point I was going to make as far as Western impact and just saying how Mario is worldwide. And that's because anybody from any country can pick up Mario and be able to enjoy it and interact with it without really having a language barrier. You don't have to listen to the game, or, any speech or stuff in Japanese or, in English or any particular language. There's nothing lost in nuance or in translation, because it's such a simple story. It's a little bit of text you have to read. You read. It's easy to follow along. It's a plumber trying to save a princess. Like that's it. There's it's a simple story. You get it, and the gameplay is so enjoyable. It doesn't require you to really go in depth with anything else to get what's going on, and that is another, just another boon for Nintendo to provide such a compelling game with such a lack of story. And especially in today's day where we talk about how story-driven games are, so vital, and we look at the success of, The Last of Us and, that becoming the TV show and all these games that are so story-driven, the Resident Evils and the Silent Hills and all these games that we love that are so in depth when it comes to story. But then we have Mario, which is the most basic story, ever. And it's a story we've, heard, a million times over. And the hero, the male hero saves the princess. Like, what fairy tale have we not read that in or heard, countless times throughout life? Yet, and it's done so well and it's so enjoyable. And it doesn't feel
we have a party
like
at our
that
house,
same
what we do is,
repeated story, even though
top 3 games
in reality is that same repeated story.
Mario Kart, Mario Party, Super Mario Bros. Wii, or Super Smash Bros. All of them Mario games. Like, it's amazing how diverse it is and how accessible, like, the most accessible series and game ever created.
Oh, absolutely. Like, there's nothing more accessible than Mario, and Nintendo, again, has done such a great job at doing that, because you took Mario and you made a golf game, and you made a soccer game, and you made a baseball game, and then you made a board game of a video game, a board game video game that, and there's 8 of them, and they're all insanely fun. And like it's a drinking game for adults and college students, and it's if you don't want to have the mess of a board game, and like let's face it, as as classic of a board game as like let's say Monopoly is, there's so many fights. It's a long game. People play with different rules and etc. With Mario Party, you set the amount of turns. You've got the rules that are baked in. You can toggle some rule differences here and there, but pretty much it's the majority the same. And then you go play the game, and everyone has a great time.
It's perfect.
Like
It's so good.
it's so good. It is perfect. No other franchise, again, born out of this one game, has that. Can do that. You could, Sega tried with Sonic, but you could never take any other character and do what Nintendo has done with Mario. It's just not possible. No one wants. Capcom can't take any of their characters and do that. No one wants to play, Street Fighter Party. Like no one wants to play a board game with them. Nobody wants to play a basketball game or a soccer game or a baseball game with those characters.
Right.
No one's asking for that. And truth be told, we weren't asking for what they did with Mario either. But because it's always been a family friendly franchise, and the innocence of it all, it made sense that we were able to do all those fun things with it. And, racing, a top racing game, Mario. A top fighting game, Mario. Like, if it's going to be between the platformers, the racing, and it's just amazing that, the RPGs, like, Paper Mario. Amazing. Luigi's Mansion. And then also to have the sidekick, the younger brother's sidekick get his own games that are fantastic. Other side characters have their own games.
Yoshi has his own series. Donkey Kong.
Bad Guy from the one has a series. The little brother has a series. The girlfriend has a series. Toad has a game. Like,
right? Yeah.
Bowser has a game. Like, when two of the villains have games, the sidekick brother has a game. The damsel in distress has a game, and the nobody that no one even asked for, and Toad has his own thing. It's like, bro, like, who else can do that?
And somehow they're all different.
Yes, they're all different while still being similar, and they're all enjoyable. It's a marvel how they have built this franchise out of that. And even though, obviously, Super Mario Brothers is a sequel to Mario Brothers, Mario Brothers as a game, while fun, is nowhere to the level that Super Mario Brothers is. So, like, it's truly birthed out of the success of Super Mario Brothers, compared to, just how Mario Brothers was. Because Mario Brothers itself was just, it was fun. It was an arcade game, but it didn't have that impact because it wasn't in the homes the way Super Mario Brothers was.
I love that Nintendo still respects this original game because, like, Piranha Plants still act the same. Goombas still act the same as they do in the modern games. So do Koopas. Yep.
And Boos and Cheep Cheeps and all that. Yeah.
It's so good.
Well, but it's the consistency. They're consistent with it. You know what to expect, and because when you get a game and there's so much that's different, that's changed from, especially when there's familiar characters, familiar enemies that you battle, and then you see that they don't behave the same in this game as they did in that game. That doesn't make sense. It's like, well, why?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one thing if you say, okay, we're gonna, like, if you're playing Resident Evil, and you can say, all right, well, we're going to introduce a tougher version of zombies here. But if your basic zombie doesn't behave the same or act the same, and especially if you're, doing like a remake or a sequel, well, then you're really doing a new game. It's really not the same anymore. So having the general behaviors, be consistent makes sense. That's what it should be. And then you introduce tougher ones as you go along, to increase that challenge. Like you said, one of those great things is when you replay it, it gets a little tougher. That's what it should be. It should get a little tougher. You add more things, but you play the classics.
Like the cool thing. They'll replace the Koopas in the early levels of what are they, Buzzy Beetles? Yeah,
Yes.
you can't fireball those guys, so
Right.
you know, it's cool. Um, yeah. Oh, one thing I'm always terrible at with these games, including this one, are the springboards. The springs that you have to bounce on.
Yes.
I can
Oh, I
never
hate
get
those.
those down, especially in Super Mario World. Ugh.
No, they're the worst.
I'm glad I'm
They
not
are.
the only one. Okay. That's good.
It's truly it's a precision. It's such a precision thing. Like you've got to be precise, or you're gonna screw it up, and it's a wrap.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like and if you when you have I forget I think it's World 6 where you've got to jump and hit it, and you got to hit it just right to clear the chasm, or you're done for. Like that one, I remember it took me a very long time.
I think
be
that's
able
the
to
level
pass
where
that.
bullet bills are coming at you too, maybe.
Yes, yep. You've got bullet bills coming at you, and it's like, bro.
Oh,
you gotta
and Hammer
avoid-
Bros are in that level too.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a
Hammer
hard
Brothers
level.
are in that one too. It's a really tough one.
Yeah.
And if you're not precise, it's game over. It's done. And I remember as a kid, I'd have like 30 lives stocked up, and I'd get there and I'd either lose them all, or if I got past it, I'd have like 3 left.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah. And as you know, as you go on, it's harder to accumulate those lives. It's getting tougher and tougher.
Yeah.
And the coins aren't as plentiful as they were in the earlier levels. So it's harder and harder. And it's like, bro, like I don't know what I'm going to do now. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I remember seeing Hammer Bros when I was a kid, and those used to intimidate the hell out of me. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm supposed to get past this. What am I supposed to do here?
Well, you panic because
Tear
like
me up.
there's no other enemy like them that you encounter before you get to. I think they first appear at World 5 or 6, and since there's no other enemy like them, when you see them and they just start chucking those hammers at you, you're like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Like,
Yeah.
what is really going on with these guys throwing hammers at me?
Yeah, and then I think like 7-1 has a ton of Hammer Bros, and at one point
Yes.
Bowser starts throwing hammers.
Yeah, and
I
it's
think
like,
in one of his boss fights, yeah.
yeah, I think it's the World 7 boss fight. He starts throwing hammers, and it's like, bro, like, dude, it was hard enough to get past to begin with, and now you're chucking hammers at me too. Like, come on, like, what is really going on here?
Yeah, this playthrough is the first time I actually used the firepower to kill Bowser, and it's kind of nice actually. I'm probably going to start using that method from now on.
Oh yeah, if you can get there with a power up, that is ultimately the best option.
Especially
Because-
if you get hit, you can just use your invincibility frames to go right past him.
right past him. Yeah, you can use that split second and go past him because, and he's tough. Like, he is not easy to get by.
Yeah, and he's
You know,
shooting at you on the run up there always.
Yeah, he's got the fire shooting at you. He's got moving things on the bridge. It is no easy task at all getting past Bowser. He is truly a formidable foe.
Mm-hmm. Also,
Especially-
oh, good.
No, I was going to say, especially in those later levels, it's really tough to get by.
Yeah, because the environment will change sometimes. You'll have a platform going back and forth, yeah, it's fun though. I like them.
Oh yeah, no, it's very like you said, it holds up to this day.
Took a little break, and we're back, and we're just about done. I just have a few more things that we didn't talk about that I want to talk about. What do you think about the mazes in the castle?
Oh man, as a kid, I absolutely hated them.
Right,
'Cause, like-
me too.
And like some of the mazes, you didn't know until you kind of figured that, hey, okay, this is a maze, because once you start, cycling through, and
Yeah.
it would be frustrating for me just as a kid because I would be like, well, why am I ending up here? And I started playing SMB. Oh man, I'm trying to think. My parents bought the NES for Christmas. I'm gonna say it was Christmas of '88. Yeah, Christmas of '88 because I was I remember I have a picture of me and my sister at that Christmas when my parents bought the NES, and I'm wearing a Detroit Pistons T-shirt, and it was from winning the Eastern Conference Championship, and they won the whole thing in '89. So it was the year. So I know it was the year before. So '88.
For some reason, it came out in '85. I thought it came out in like '88 or something. Never mind.
No, it came out earlier. It's just to my recollection, it just was not being purchased as often as it was later on. It became more prevalent, where more and more people were buying it, and it was going into more and more homes. But yeah, '88, the Christmas of '88 is when it came into my life. So I was 6 years old.
I mean, that's a good age for a good first. Well, I don't know if it was your first game, but starting games, it's very good for that.
It was my first system, and we really didn't have any other, gaming things in the home. Eventually, that would increase. My mom would buy a Pac-Man cabinet at an auction, and
Nice.
yeah, growing up with that was super dope.
Yeah, unfortunately, both my parents didn't really do games. None of my family did.
Oh,
So.
my mom, even though she acts like she's not a gamer, she is a gamer, and we were big family gamers, especially in the '80s. It was very popular playing family board games. The classics,
Yeah.
but also Pictionary and Trivial Pursuit and stuff like that. So
We played those. I remember playing lots of Yahtzee as a kid.
Oh, we played tons of Yahtzee, Scrabble.
Yeah.
Board games and stuff were, gaming in general. It was something very common. My parents played spades. They played bid whist. We were playing games constantly. We were gaming in some capacity.
Yeah.
Constantly. So so as a 6-year-old, you're playing the game and you're doing well. You think you're doing well, but as these levels get harder and you're getting on higher levels, then these tricky levels start to happen, and then these mazes start to happen, and you kind of don't know what's going on, and it's kind of it starts to get a bit frustrating because you're like, I think I'm doing the right thing, but I seem to not be doing the right thing.
And also, that's before you know all the secrets, so you're still going along without many lives, and I'm sure you had to restart the game a ton of times before you even beat it.
Oh, yeah, so, then, you have that situation where you're trying, you think you're doing the right thing because every other castle you've gone through, you just go through and you beat it, and that's that. Now you're running out of time because you keep on, circling through and through. You don't know what you're doing wrong, and then you all of a sudden you start to panic because the music is getting more intense because the timer's going low, and you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. My mom eventually, because she was even though again she swears she's not a gamer, she was better at it than me and my older sister were, and she was the one who had to eventually tell us hey, this is, it's being time, and it's not being time, but this is a maze. You have to do something different. You're making a mistake somewhere. So that was eventually the way we found out. Hey, we're doing this wrong. We've got to do something different to beat these levels. And then eventually we were able to. We had to collaborate. So that was one thing that was really cool between my older sister and I, was to beat it, we had to work, we had to help each other in remembering what happened where. So which one we needed to go over, which one we needed to go down, one we needed to do. So we had to keep track together. so that we could eventually beat the thing. Because if not, neither one of us, I mean, I was 6, she was 7 or 8 when we got it. So, neither one of us were tracking all that well when it came to figuring out what we were supposed to be doing and going through the maze portion. We were just doing the best we could, as two kids trying to figure out how to beat these levels. But
it took me a while to figure out when I was a kid. I was like, what is happening here? Yeah, and then like you said, the time goes down and that music gets up there, and
you start to panic, especially when you're a kid. You start to panic, and
Absolutely.
and for those listening, again, this is 1988. There is no internet to go on to the reference.
Right.
Nintendo Power was the thing, but it was a luxury. Strategy guides were non-existent. The first strategy guide
didn't really come around until like 64 era, right?
No,
and I know
actually,
there were some for like Super Nintendo. I think.
Actually, no. I still have my first strategy guide. It was actually only a couple years later that my first strategy guide was for Super Mario Brothers 3, and I still have it.
Oh.
I have parts of it because it got used so much it's in pieces.
Yeah.
But no, my first strategy guide, it complete every level, every hint from the card game, everything involving with Super Mario Brothers 3. That I had that strategy guide for it. So
I love strategy guides so much. I still like. If I know I'm going to be playing a game like a few months in advance, if there's a strategy guide available, I'll sometimes try to order it and follow that. It's just, I don't know, nostalgic. I like it.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the game. I went through an era because I used to work I spent a year and a half, 2 years working at EB Games prior to the GameStop takeover. And during that time frame, if I bought a game and it had a strategy guide, I was probably buying it. It was just that prevalent for me to buy a strategy guide. I bought a strategy guide for Animal Crossing. That's how addicted to strategy guide buying I was.
I have one for Animal Crossing Wild World on DS.
Yeah, that was the very first Animal Crossing. I bought the strategy guide for it, which was completely unnecessary. I didn't know it at the time, but it was completely frivolous.
I think the best you get out of it is like tracking exactly what holidays are on what or what event days. Yeah, but
it let me know like the special things you could do, and little tricks,
the money
here and
rocks
there.
and stuff.
So like, right, and like I knew that I could. I knew like I would get the gold statue if I was the first one to repay my loan.
Oh, I didn't know about
stuff
that
like that. Yeah, so if you repay your loan off first, all levels of your loans, then the great crook Tom Nook erects a gold statue in the main area there in front of the houses.
Oh, that's cool.
So like I knew, it's pretty cool, and it shows that you spent way too much time playing this gaming, collecting bells.
Yeah, I used
Which
to.
I have to lament. I still have Animal Crossing. I got it launch. It was the launch day for it, but unfortunately, the memory card that had my first town is lost.
Man.
And I had almost 20 years of gameplay on that memory card.
Oh, that sucks.
Like, and my wife and my 2 older kids, we all had houses. They were all paid off. We all had our statues. We all had, we had 20 years of gameplay in it. We would, like, if we didn't feel like doing something for like New Year's Eve or whatever, we would celebrate New Year's Eve on Animal Crossing and do the fireworks on the game.
Man, that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it was a really dope and fun thing to do.
That's cool. Now I want to
totally unrelated to Super Mario, but
I mean,
Super
they're both
Mario,
Nintendo. And you can play Super Mario and Animal Crossing.
Yes, I was just about to say that, but that was one thing that was really cool was playing Mario, playing those NES games within Animal Crossing. Like, I was really cool. I was playing Excite Bike.
That's my first experience of quite a few NES games because I played Animal Crossing a lot when I was a kid. I got it it came with the Animal Crossing memory card and everything.
That's what I had. Yeah,
but I just played it so much. So I played a lot of the NES games on there. I think there's like 30. There's quite a few.
There's a bunch. I can't recall the exact number, but there is a lot.
Like, I know for a fact that's the first time I played an Excite Bike.
Excite Bike is it's a classic. There's little wrong with Excite Bike
For sure.
And then you had one thing that was cool was also the connectivity portion to that, so you could play certain the connectivity to the Game Boy Advance. There were certain NES games you could only get if you connected via the Game Boy Advance through the card reader things. Yeah, it was just so much stuff, and the NES emulation on it was excellent. It was so good.
It was. It's like that's kind of crazy. It was 30 in there, and then you get doesn't the NES Mini only have 30 NES?
Yeah,
games?
the NES. Yeah, they both only come with a very limited amount of games in them.
Just get yourself Animal Crossing, and you can do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Animal Crossing now is still $100, I think. But
as much as I have New Horizons, and we have Wild World. I think Wild World was the one on the GameCube, but the first one to me is still the most enjoyable. I don't know if it's a nostalgia piece, but it was still the most enjoyable. And it's funny just because I'm playing these classic NES games on there. I'm doing all this stuff. You got in the time frame. It's 2001, so I'm in college. I'm a college basketball player, and I'm not going out to try to go to bars or parties. I'm playing Animal Crossing.
Hell yeah. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
It's not what you expect your typical collegiate athlete to be doing, on a Friday.
Right.
But I'm a gamer. I would bring my PlayStation 2 to college with me.
Nice.
And, my backpack had books and PlayStation 2 in it. And I would hook it up to a TV in our cafeteria area. It was a hangout room, TV room, and we would play, Madden. We play, NCAA college football. We would take turns playing Grand Theft Auto 2. Grand Theft Auto 3. But one thing I did not do was take my GameCube with me because I bought that at launch while that same time, in college, and that I love Nintendo too much. I was not taking that out of the house. But I had Luigi's Mansion. I bought a bundle from EB. It came with the system and a third-party controller and 3 games, which my games were Luigi's Mansion, NHL hits.
What else do I have to talk about? Have you ever done the second quest on here?
I have. I did. That was definitely in adulthood. As a child, once I beat it,
It's tough.
I was so glad and excited that I beat it that there was definitely no trying to go around for. I wasn't asking for seconds.
Yeah, leave on a good note while you're ahead.
Yes. Going out on top was definitely what I was trying to do.
I noticed something new. I think I said earlier in the episode, this is the first time I used a fireball against Bowser. And whenever you use that, you can see him turn into a minion on each world. You can see him turn into a Hammer Bro as he dies. It depends on the world. Thought that was cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, as he's falling into the lava, when you hit him with that final fireball, he'll turn into the sprite for a minute. I also love that Nintendo really didn't care about physics. We're gonna have fire underwater, and there's one point in the Bowser's Castle where they have those, the fire ropes things that are swinging around, even those are under the water.
Yes,
That was
and it's
great.
like how are these things underwater and hurting me? But
Hey,
you
don't
know,
worry about it. Just play
don't
the
worry
game.
about it. Yeah, play the game. I mean,
Yeah,
again, you're an Italian plumber going into a mushroom kingdom to save a princess.
exactly.
We're suspending belief here.
That pretty much covers it. We got, I think, about a little over an hour on this little game.
It is a
I mean,
cornerstone game.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an
And
important game.
absolutely,
And
any
not only is
cornerstone
it,
game deserves the time.
yeah, not only is it important, it still holds up. Like, I think it's just as fun now as it was before, like back when it came out. It's great.
Absolutely, I don't think anybody objective when talking about gaming
I
would
mean,
disparage the greatness that is Super Mario Brothers.
even some of the other like NES masterpieces or classics have their problems. Like the original Legend of Zelda, you're really going to make me bomb every single wall. Not even like I don't know. There's some stuff in that that's a little weird. Metroid, the original Metroid, I loved it, but everything kind of looks the same. Even this game has quite a bit of setting variety. I mean, towards the end of the game, you get like some outside levels with castle walls. You get nighttime levels, snowy levels.
Yep.
It changes it up. And NES launch title, they definitely didn't have to do that at all.
No, not at all. And you're right. Like a lot of the classics, Metroid has its problems. It looks all very similar. It's sometimes I forget what level I'm on because
Right?
everything
Yeah.
looks the same.
I tried the 100% that game like a year ago, and I gave up. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I just want to beat it.
There was so much involved with Metroid that it kind of ruined the fun aspect for me. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's understandable. And I don't know if you played Zero Mission, but I think that's a way better version of the original.
I have not. I've heard it makes it a lot more of a crispier, cleaner, more enjoyable gameplay.
And they add a like an epilogue of the game where you play Zero Suit Samus, and you have to go get your equipment back from the space pirates and have a whole other fight. It's actually pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out because I've always liked Metroid. It's just it was just always something about it that just didn't make it as fun as I felt it should be.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I don't. Did you? The Nintendo Direct just came out, and they said they're part of it. They're about to put Zero Mission on the Switch Subscript Classics thing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and you said you have that, right?
I sure
think
do.
you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Direct?
I
You
didn't
know
get
it
the
was-
chance. I missed watching Direct this year. I missed watching Sony State of Play this year. I've had so much going on with my my kids being teenagers. It just takes up
Yeah.
so much time. But
I didn't even know it happened till today. Yeah, I just went on IGN and it was like, oh, here's everything that was announced. Do you know what was announced?
no, I know a new Metroid was announced, and I
Yeah, they
know
showed
because
gameplay.
so many people are complaining about the look or the mechanics or whatever. I'm like,
Look, man, I don't know if you saw what I put on the Discord about that. Did you?
I did not. I didn't get a chance to see it.
I put on there about that because it's Metroid Prime 4, which is like people have been waiting a long time. Metroid Prime 3 came out in the Wii, but I think it looks amazing. They showed gameplay in Metroid Prime 4, and I don't know. I think, especially being that hyped, people are gonna have issues, but people are still gonna buy it, no matter what. All those people complaining, they're still gonna buy it.
Yeah. People unfortunately they love to complain nowadays.
Yeah.
It really is a complain first generation for, unfortunately, like so many mediums. It's really just complain first and complain more.
You know how many good franchises get abandoned? Be happy we're getting a Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, I mean, for real. Like, and look, I mean, I've been gaming longer than you've been alive. Like, I get it. Like, and as a fan and someone who games on so many different consoles and platforms, I mean, it took. I mean, when we mentioned earlier Shenmue, Like Shenmue 2, I beat in, I want to say 2002, 2003, and we got Shenmue 3 in what, 2019?
Yeah, the only thing I know about Shenmue 3, I ask a lot of people that like Shenmue, like, do you like it? They're like, yeah. But I remember when it came out, a lot of people complained.
I like it. It feels like Shenmue. It's different, but again, we're talking about like 16 years between games.
Yeah.
They had to do things and take some chances to make some decisions that were not in the first two, because you can't just completely rely upon nostalgia to get your game by, and you're trying to finish a fantastic story. Like my wife watched me play through Shenmue 2, and at the end of it she was like, well, what happens next? And I'm like, we don't know. She goes, there's got to be a Shenmue 3. And I'm like, no, there's not. And we don't know if there's going to be. And she goes, no, there can't be. And she went online. And again, this is 2003. And I'm like, I'm telling you, like, there is none. There's no, and they said there's no plans for it because they can't get the money for it because both games were super duper expensive.
Yeah, I know when Shenmue 1 released, I think it was the most expensive game ever at that point, I believe.
At that time it was. Yeah, it's super expensive. And, thank God for Kickstarter, because, if it wasn't for Kickstarter, we wouldn't have gotten 3. And that's like, for me, I would never, like, even if there was tons of aspects about 3 that I didn't like, I would never complain about it because we actually got it.
And did it wrap? I don't know anything about the story. Did it wrap it up pretty well?
Well, I mean, you said it's on your list. I don't want to.
I don't want any spoilers. I am going to play.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it's just I love it. There's so many aspects to that game that I think are just fantastic.
Is there anything else you want to say about Super Mario Brothers?
I just want to close in saying that I'm thankful for Super Mario Brothers as a game, just for just for being that such a great cornerstone, and being something that since it came into my life in 1988 has been a constant enjoyable piece of gaming that I still go back to and have a great time with. I encourage anybody who hasn't taken the time to enjoy the pleasure of playing Super Mario Brothers to rectify that as soon as possible.
I second that. Yeah, I mean, without this game, it's just such a huge influence. Platformers, I don't think would have come as far as they've come as fast as they did without Mario, especially if like Super Mario 64, just because that was like the grandfather of 3D platforming. Like,
absolutely,
it's just great. I mean, it's just killing it in every franchise. I mean, has the best kart racers, Mario Kart. Best 2D platformers and 3D platformers, Mario. They just got it all, and that's great.
Except Super Mario Bros. Is the granddaddy of them all. It all ties back to that.
Except one thing I don't think it won: Tetris beats Dr. Mario, in my opinion.
I won't disagree with that. It beats Dr. Mario. It beats Yoshi.
Yoshi,
which is the same thing.
Yeah.
The only I'll give Dr. Mario and Yoshi this though, even though they're not as good as Tetris, they were enjoyable with these, with those different skins on it, different variation ways of playing it.
Yeah, it's more Tetris. There's nothing wrong with more Tetris.
It's reskin Tetris with a Mario feel, but it was different enough that it felt different because your strategy had to be different. Mm-hmm. You couldn't do the typical Tetris strategy,
right?
But we all know what it was.
I mean, Tetris is just like Mario. It's such an inspiration, still alive today. I mean,
there's movies. I mean, they made a movie about Tetris.
oh, that's right. That just happened.
They made a
I need to
movie
watch
about the beginnings of Tetris. Like,
that.
and there will be a movie about going from Mario Brothers to Super Mario Brothers. Like, there's going to be a movie about that, and there has to be because it's so important
I'm sure.
to the landscape of gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Justin, I want to thank you so much for connecting with me, inviting me to do this episode as well as others. I'm looking forward to so much to that, and continuing to have these great conversations, and being able to giving myself a reason to replay these games before we have these conversations.
I mean, I have a lot of modern games. Well, not even. Most of my games coming up on the schedule are like either from the PS2 era, 360, and modern. So it's nice to find someone that does appreciate the classics and that I can talk to about them with. It's nice.
Absolutely.
So thank y'all for listening to Never Enough Gaming, and see you next time.